My name is Logan. I'm a graduate assistant at Ellis Library, which you may or may not know. And today I'm going to do just kind of a brief overview of Oxford reference and mention some ways that you might want to suggest this to your patrons or the faculty that you're working with. So to start out with, if you have any questions at all, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. I have the chat popped up on another screen, so I'll be able to see that. To find Oxford reference, we're going to start from the university's homepage, and under looking for, I'm going to select a database. And then you can either type in the name Oxford, or you can hit the O. I'll hit the O. And I'm going to scroll down, and you'll see that we have a couple different databases from Oxford. The one we're going to be opening today is Oxford Reference Online Premium, kind of a mouthful of a title. So what is Oxford Reference Premium? Well, it's exactly what you would think of when you think of a encyclopedic database. So it has different encyclopedias, it has some dictionaries, but it also has some timelines and quotations as well, which is a little cool. Start out with, when you come to Oxford Reference, you're going to see this as the homepage. The top bar is just kind of the normal about, but then you can also create or sign into a personal profile. That's completely optional, but you will want to create one if you want to save your content or searches beyond just your one session. Over to the left of this navigation bar, we'll see a subject dropdown. So these are all the different types of subjects that you can view in Oxford Reference. When you click on one of these, it'll take you to a results page that shows you all of the entries that fall under that subject type. Oxford Reference also has a lot of reference types, as I was kind of mentioning. So there's overview pages. So if you have a topic, it could be a person, it could be an event, but you just want a general overview of what that item is, you can go to an overview page. Subject reference is similar to an overview page where it kind of just shows you a full list, but in this it'll be subject specific. So on the and we can look at that in a little bit, but on the left hand side you'll be able to select a specific subject. Timelines will show you a timeline given a certain time frame or given a certain topic, and we'll look at that as well. So each of these reference types we'll look into more in depth. Quotations is exactly what you think it is. It's a list of different quotations from people. They all have attributions in the sense that if they know the person, then it says their name and where that came from. So if it was in a book or in a play or whatever, but if it's just some historical quote that no one's really sure of who to attribute it to, it says that the author or originator is unknown. We have English dictionaries, and this isn't just English as in American English. They also have a few different dialects of English, and then bilingual dictionaries. So if you're working on an assignment in a different language and you're trying to work on translations, that might help because it goes from like Spanish to English as well as English to Spanish. So that might be helpful if you're working on something and you don't want to have some random website pulled up. Over to the left, this is more about our subscriber information. So it tells you, Oxford Reference is the best, which is subjective. You can browse and search the entries with this link. You can search just the books. You can see the list of books in here, which might be helpful if you're researching something and you need to keep track of all the things you're searching. You can also download the full title list. This tells us that we have both quick reference and reference library options. So some of the entries will be quick reference. So that means that they're kind of short, sweet, to the point entries, while we also have in-depth, like several pages long entries of topics. This final thing down here is the free research tools, which I kind of mentioned. So the overview page, the quotations, and the timelines. Over to our right in this grayed out box, is some news, so it talks about updates to the platform. And then there's some cute little trivia. So there's a trivia every day. There is a trivia for a fact and a trivia for who said that. I don't ever know either of these answers, but it's something kind of cool. And then up here at the very top, which I kind of skipped over, is the Explore by Subject. Now this is where we'll be working from today. It is a little bit different than the subject dropdown up here. So up here, if you click a subject, it'll take you to what looks like a results page, where when you click on a subject here, it's more of an overview, but not an overview page. So there's a specific type of overview page within Oxford Reference. So I guess this would more be like a summary or about. So the first one we're going to look at is social sciences. I think this is really good for people who are just starting with Oxford Reference and aren't really sure what is available to them or are just generally getting into a topic. So in social sciences, you see it gives a little blurb about what social science is, and then it gives you some different books that you can find when you're searching within the social science topic. But then it also has sample resources, a featured author, and so it tells about one of their authors, and it has like a little Q&A with them sometimes. It also has featured blogs, more from Oxford University Press. So this more from Oxford University Press is if you want to create alerts. So it tells you here are different links and ways that you can do to stay up with Oxford University Press if you really like the information you find and you want to know when more is added about a particular subject, topic, whatever it may be. How to subscribe is not really relevant to us because we are already subscribed. Now we're going to look at the sample resources first. So we see that there's a timeline, there's some quotations, an overview page, definitions, and a biography. So I'm going to start with the timeline of politics. Now, when we open the timeline of politics, we'll see if it loads. Up at the top, it tells us some basic information about what this timeline is. So where it came from, what years it covers, subject, and then the title. Over to the left, you'll see that you can browse other timelines. So if you accidentally clicked on the wrong one, or you say, oh, I'm actually interested in this other thing, you can click and go to that timeline. You can limit it by areas, which I think is really important if you're in the social sciences working on a particular continent, country, whatever it may be. You can click on that and then see, so it goes down to Central Africa, East Africa, Ethiopia, or Asia, different areas of Asia, North America, different areas of North America. So you can get a timeline of just that area of the world. You can also limit it by themes. So we're limited to politics right now, but even under politics, there's communism, conquest, dynasties, all sorts of different options you can use to narrow this timeline to what you want. I think this could be pretty important for maybe students who are first starting in a subject, either if they're first starting a paper or just in general. You can share a link to this, and I'll show how to do that in a moment. And they can see kind of a quick rundown of, okay, this is what I'm working with, and they have kind of a general like, okay, now I know the outline of this topic that I'm going to be pursuing. Something cool about the timeline, not only does it show you the year and then some information, you can click on any of these that you want and it'll drop down. And when you see in the drop down is the entry from a dictionary. And then you can also see what other timelines this entry would show up on. So say you're looking at this second one, Hatshepsut takes power in Egypt and is unusual in being a female pharaoh. That's pretty cool. So we'll click to read her entry in a moment, but you can see that it's listed for Egypt, North Africa, Africa, dynasties, royalty, and the time frame from when about that she was in power. So we'll click on her name and it'll take us to an entry. And we see here that it's kind of short. So this is just a quick, easy reference, but maybe I wanted something more. Maybe I actually wanted to learn more about her. So you can go over to the right or left and see more on this topic. If you click view overview page for this topic, it'll show you the same list of other entries, but it'll also tell you how long they are. So once the page loads, it's running kind of slow this morning. Does anybody, okay. So you can see here that, wow, so there's this one, I think it's the one we were just looking at, that has 64 words, not very long. If we look at the second option in the Oxford Encyclopedia of Ancient Egypt, it is 882 words long, which is definitely where we want to go if we want more information. This is one of the perks I think it has over, say, if you're using Wikipedia. Wikipedia can be great for a lot of different things, but it's, there's one entry for each kind of thing. Yeah, the entry is built from a lot of different people, but it is a singular entry with one, main goal to have as much information as possible. Whereas here, you can kind of switch between, oh, I want kind of a smaller thing, but I don't want to lose out a ton of information, or I want kind of a longer thing with more information, which I think is pretty helpful if you, depending on your level of knowledge with the topic. So say we finally have this entry and we want to do something with it. There are a couple different things that you can do once you have an entry you like, and it's up in this kind of top right below your navigation bar. So you can print. It's probably going to pop up print. Yeah, so it takes it to a printing page, and then you can print it from here using your internet browser. You can save. If you create an account, as I mentioned earlier, it's completely optional. You can save this and then return to it later. You can cite it. So the site's kind of cool because you can, it only has APA, MLA, and Chicago, but it lets you either copy and paste it somewhere. So say you just need a quick citation, you don't want to, save it anywhere else, you can just copy and paste it. But you can also export it either for an RIS file, a bib file, or an EndNote file. So depending on which citation manager you want to use, it's pretty easy to pick your citation style and then export that citation. You can also email your entry. It can either be pop up and have it put in an email and send it to someone, either you or who you're working with, or you can copy the link directly to put it somewhere for safekeeping. Again, this is a resource only for students, faculty, staff, people affiliated with MU, so they will have to be logged in or able to log in if you're sending out this link. This could be great if you want, so say you're working on a course for students, or giving someone a primer on something, you can have these links put in so that they can easily go in and look at this entry and be able to work with it. Because similar to how there was more entries on the topic, there's also related works. So sometimes it'll be related works linked within the actual words. So maybe they'll mention someone, it'll actually link them within the text, but oftentimes they'll be over to the left. So, it says that she is the daughter of this person. So you could click on this person to read more about that history. So that's kind of a really brief portion of kind of the natural progression of going through, say you're interested in something and you kind of just progress through it like that. I'm going to go back to the social sciences topic, or actually let's do a different topic. Let's go back to the front. So far we've seen a timeline, we've seen an overview page, we've seen a reference list. Does anybody have any of these topics that they're particularly interested in? There's archaeology, art, classical studies, history, language, linguistics, performing arts, literature, names, studies, music, media studies, health and medicine, law, philosophy, quotations, religion, science and technology, social sciences, or society and culture. Um, Anyone have any input or suggestions? Society and culture. Okay, thank you, Emma. So let's look at society and culture. So we see the same kind of landing page here where there is an overview. Um, it has some major books that you could find within this, as well as sample sources. This is a shorter feature authored. More Q&A. I didn't mention this the last time, but there also are featured blogs from Oxford University Press uh, that you can click on if you're more interested in. So how much do you know about wine? That's kind of sounds like a BuzzFeed quiz, which could be fun if you like wine. But let's go up and look at some of these sample sources. So we haven't looked at quotations yet. So there's quotations about civilization and culture. Let's look at culture. So when we see a link for quotations, it'll have the title of the book up here that the quotation is coming from, as well as some other information about it. And then you can scroll down and see a list of different quotations about that topic. As I mentioned previously, that when you see a quotation, it'll tell you who it's from, about that person a little bit, and then where they got that information from. So as you can see, it's letter to Abigail Adams, 12th May of 1780. And as I'm highlighting things to point them out to you, you can see that if you sign in, you can annotate something. So say you're working on, you're working on a list of quotations, or you're working on, looking in one of those longer entries, you'll be able to highlight and annotate what is important to you. The next thing that we're going to look at is doing a search, because so far we've looked at clicking through a lot of different types of things, but maybe you already know what you want to look for. So you want to run a search. Up in the search box, I'm just going to type in librarian, because that is often on my mind, working in a library. And it will take a minute. Let's close out of this other tab, maybe it'll load a little faster. And it shows us what a results page will look like. At the top, it'll give us some different options that we might want to search for. It'll also show a quick definition, which I think is cool. So to see what the official definition in the Oxford Dictionary is, you can scroll to the left and automatically it's set to things that we've unlocked, and either because we pay for them or things that are free because they're freely available to everyone. You can refine your terms. You can add a row, so you can use those Booleans and or not in your search. You can sort by reference type. So say you only want timelines that include librarians, or you only want subject reference that includes librarians. You can click on that and it'll filter your search by that. You can refine by subject if you're interested in librarians in a particular subject. And then you can also tell it which type of reference you want. Do you want it to be quick, the nice and short kind of entries, or do you want it to be from a reference library, which is longer? You can also limit it by things that have images. So some of the entries will have illustrations to go with them. And if that's what you're looking for, if you want to have an image that you use for promotional material, or for in your class, you would click results by images only. Up at the top, again, you will see that the main search defaults to entries. We see that there are about 2,000 entries. It also links to the overview page for librarian. If you are interested in pulling from a specific book, or you want to know, I just want to tell my students, or I just want to look at a particular book, you can go over to book and look at the types of books that these entries are being pulled from. So Dictionary of English Folklore, Oxford Encyclopedia of American Literature, concise Oxford Companion to English Literature, and the Dictionary of Popes. Well, that's kind of an interesting mix of books that it's being, you could pull from. But we're going to go back to the entries and see what we can find that's interesting. So I want to look at the dictionaries because we haven't really looked at the dictionaries yet. Let's look at English dictionaries. So once it loads, you can kind of scroll and see the beginning of each entry, and you can click on the name or the title of the entry to be taken to the full entry. Let's just give a brief look of what types of dictionaries you could be expecting to be pulled from. So this first one is New Oxford American Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary of English, the New Zealand Oxford Dictionary. So here's one where it's a different version of English, so a different dialect of English that it's pulling from. The Canadian Oxford Dictionary, the Australian Oxford Dictionary. So these things, so it's not just, you're not just saying the same entry from the same type or the same background of dictionary. They're pulled from lots of different dictionaries. They're all of this stuff is Oxford's own publications, but they have such a large company that they do have the ability to have lots of different published books from lots of different writers. And you can see sometimes who the author is of a particular book or who the editor is of a particular book. So that's cool as well. The final thing before I wrap this up, because this isn't a super long session unless you have questions, it's more just an overview to see what Oxford reference has to offer. Let's look at some of those bilingual dictionaries. So I'm going to go up to reference type and click on bilingual dictionaries. And a note to make as this is loading is that everything I'm doing, it's saving here for just this session. So if you close out, if you leave, this will go away unless you're signed in, and then I think those can be saved. So it tells me all of the entries that I viewed and all the searches that I've run, so that you can rerun them if you want to. So looking at let's look at the books under bilingual dictionaries. So we see that we have the business French dictionary for English to French. So if you're working in a more formal version of French, this might be helpful as opposed to maybe a informal version that you're familiar with. They also have the same for French to English. They have Spanish to English, English to Spanish, English to Welsh, Welsh to English, German, Irish, and this is even, so there are different dialects, as I mentioned. So this is really helpful if you generally know the language, but maybe there's some things that you don't quite know. A pocket Italian dictionary, so it's probably going to be something smaller than a full-size dictionary. So, and they have Latin, they have all different languages here, kind of limited to the main Spanish, English, French, but you can see they do have smattering of German and Irish and all of that. So that's kind of an overview of Oxford reference. Does anybody have any questions about what you can do with Oxford reference, how you can work with it, or anything else about today's overview?
Yeah, I had a question. Logan? Yeah, so these, when you clicked on these individual little icons here, and they've taken you to, I guess, all sorts of information, including recent books and interviews and things, how frequently do they change those the information on those icons?
I am not sure how frequently they change. I can look into that. I would say that I think they do change relatively frequently.
Right, because I can imagine a featured author, might not stay there for a decade.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I would say if you did like a particular featured author, you could, print that, so have it print and then save this. And so that if you're working with Oxford Reference and you want to cite like, hey, this Q&A by this author was really good. So that would be something that could be saved for future. I don't know if there's anywhere that they save that on their website, but I can definitely follow up with you on that after I do some more searching. Is
yeah,
the good
I was just wondering the degree, how frequently they might, you know,
Mhm.
put in a new author, new information, that kind of thing. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wasn't interested in saving it necessarily.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can
Yeah.
look into that and we'll see. It's always good to know. So
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
you're
Mhm.
welcome. Does anyone else have any questions? It's okay if not. As I said, this was kind of just a brief overview to get people interested. If there aren't any more questions, thank you all for joining me today. I know it was a small group, but I think it was fun. I like talking about things. So thank you for joining me on this kind of chilly Tuesday morning. Um, Thank you for joining and being here.